give her a flip, give her a tap like that, and hopefully she comes up. And it's coming up. There you go, look at that. See how it's rising? Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com. This episode I'm in the kitchen and really doesn't have much to do with the garden, but more about saving money in the kitchen. I do a lot of videos, I talk a lot about the price of food and ways to cut costs here and there. And so tonight we're making fajitas for supper. We're going to have corn tortillas with them. Corn tortillas are soft corn tortillas, and they're very hard to find where I live. So I've learned to make them over the years. And I'm going to show you how to make corn tortillas, but I'm going to show you a way to save money making corn tortillas, because most videos, instructions on how to make them is to use something like this. This is just one brand name, pan. You can use whatever you want. There's a technical term for this sort of pre-cooked, prepared corn. It's prepared in a certain way. I'll put it up on the screen so you don't have to Google it, but basically if you're going to make corn tortillas, you have to use this stuff. It's very expensive in contrast with cornmeal. Okay, so with this recipe, I'm actually going to use cornmeal. So first step is to cook, they almost make like a polenta with the cornmeal. So come on over to the stove and I'll show you what I'm doing. All right, so I got water boiling here. This is 1.5 cups of water. Okay, 1.5 cups of water. I'm going to put 1/2 cup of the cornmeal in here. Okay. And about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay. Now I'm just going to move this around so it doesn't get all clumpy. All right. And move that around. I got it over, basically you bring it to a boil. And all that's happening is that the cornmeal's getting soft and hydrating. And this will turn into, okay, I can turn that back down now. You want it to boil, bring the water to a boil, but once it boils, right, you don't want it going out of control. And you certainly don't want to boil your water off. Okay, so for me, that's enough, what I've done right there. So I'm just going to turn that off and let this sort of just cool down on its own accord. I'm going to put a lid on this and just leave it like that, okay? I got the thing off. I'm just going to leave it like that for, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, all right? Okay, so that's been sitting there for about 10 minutes or so, right? So I think we can assume that the cornmeal has sort of softened up. And this basically resembles something like a polenta, all right? But really what you've done here is that you've allowed the cornmeal to soften up a little bit. This is still quite wet, and you could not turn this into tortillas in this state. Now I wanted to get this just a little bit liquefied, so I'm going to add just a tablespoon of cold water to this, all right? That's it. Because it's sort of thick and clumpy right now, right? You can sort of see that, right? So I'll take a fork to it with that little tablespoon of water I just stuck in, and just work it a little bit in this big pan to get it all broken up. And then I want to let this cool a little bit before I add the prepared tortilla mix. So I'm just going to push it up along the side of the bowl like this so it can cool off. Only need to leave it for about a minute or so for that to cool, all right? All right, so I think we're close enough to the right temperature here, so we're good. Basically, you're waiting for it to, when the steam stops coming off of it, that's when it's ready to start mixing, okay? In my opinion, anyway. You can speed that up by throwing it in the freezer for a minute or two, right? Just to cool it all down. Now, I'm gonna add another tablespoon of water to this, just because, the ratios are correct, but by boiling the water and then having it sit to cool down, there's been some evaporation. I don't know how much water we've lost, but I'm going to say we've lost about 2 tablespoons of water. So I put a tablespoon in when I was breaking this up, and I'm going to put I just put another tablespoon back in, okay? And now I'm going to add this maseca or pan or whatever you want to call it, pre-cooked white lime treated. There's some technical term for this. I just can't remember what it's called. I should have looked it up before I made the video. right? This stuff costs about 3 times as much as cornmeal, maybe even more, so it's not cheap, right? So I'm going to add that half cup, okay? So, I mean, the ratio is half a cup of cornmeal, half a cup of this stuff, right? And of course, the cornmeal swells up and that sort of thing, and there's going to be people that say you have to make the whole thing with just this, but this, I'm only going to show you this works. The tortilla puffs up, it has a really good corn taste. Nobody in the house, I mean, we've done both ways. No one complains about it, okay? Just put it that way. So now all you're doing in your bowl is you're mixing this up. And you want a consistency where it's not sticking. See how it's sticking to my hands, right? So this is still a little bit wet, so I might not have needed to add 2 tablespoons of water back in. Maybe 1 would have been fine. It's a little bit wet. So, yeah, I'm going to add just a little bit more of this stuff, maybe a tablespoon, okay? Now, a lot of things like this, they depend on the humidity in the air, what kind of day it is, what state it's in the, there's all kinds of different variables that affect the humidity of doughs. But what you're looking for is that it forms a nice ball, it's not sticking to the bowl, and it's not really sticking to your hands. Right? When you push into it, it doesn't stick to your fingers. Right? I've got some stuck on my fingers, so let me just sort of re-clean my hands a little bit here. So once you got it stuck to your fingers, of course, it'll keep sticking to them, right? Okay, so now I got a reasonably clean finger here. You push it in, the finger should come out pretty clean. We're pretty close to that, I think, here. All right. So now what you're going to do is you're going to give this a good, I still think this is a bit wet, honestly. I'm going to add, I'm just going to eyeball it here, but put another tablespoon. I think that'll do it. If you're looking for a perfect recipe for this sort of thing, you're not going to find it. You got to just work with this stuff, right? This feels better. It just seems, there's moisture, but it just doesn't seem to be as sticky. It's still sticky, it's just not too sticky. Right, so I'm just in the bowl here, I'm just working this, right? Working it. You got to do this about 20 times, give or take. Okay? It's important that you get this right. If it's too wet, they just won't behave properly when you go to make the actual tortillas, right? I think this is okay. See how it's not really, and my hands aren't covered in cornmeal, right? Good little workout. Okay, now you're gonna let this sit for a little while. Most of the time in cooking shows, they wrap it in plastic. I think that's just a waste of plastic. Put it in a plastic container, okay? You can leave that on the counter if you're gonna use it up in half an hour. Or put it in the fridge if you're going to do it. It needs to sit for about half an hour at least, okay? It can sit longer. You can leave it like that for a couple of days in the fridge and use it as you need it. So, half an hour from now, we're going to make a couple of these just so I show you the technique. But I'm going to leave the rest because we're having the tortillas tonight. And we want the nice, basically you get everything ready for your meal and you make this last. If you got kids, involve them because they like seeing it puff up and it's kind of dramatic. And you want them nice and warm and freshly made with your meal. So anyway, we'll see you in half an hour. We'll get a couple of these going on the stovetop and make some nice little flour tortillas, okay? All right, so it's been a little while. I got the pan on about a little bit higher than medium. And I'm gonna make a couple tortillas, show you how this works. So you want a Teflon pan. I mean, I'm sure there's some way to do this with a metal pan or a cast iron pan, but I find Teflon pans the best, and the better Teflon, the better. Basically, if this sticks to your Teflon pan, you need a new Teflon pan. So you're gonna make these into about, so you can see now this has got a nice Play-Doh-like texture, okay? And you're gonna make it about, I don't know, about the size of a golf ball, I guess, in your hand. Now it's handy to have one of these tortilla presses, right? You gotta have a couple pieces of plastic. If you've never done this before, you put the little ball between the two pieces of plastic. But you can also just do it with a really flat pot, right? So we'll do it both ways. You wouldn't want to buy this and find out you don't like eating these, right? So let me just bring the camera in here so you can see a bit better what I'm doing. All right, so just get this nice and round. Okay. I find don't put it right in the middle. Put it a little bit back of the middle, just slightly back of the middle. Okay. Don't forget your other plastic. Don't use plastic; it'll just stick. You could probably use wax paper for this too. All right. I just give it I push until I see it start to come out around the sides. Yeah, there's that. Okay, so it's about the right size. So that's one way to do it, and the other way to do it's with a pot here. But we gotta cook this one first. I should have more plastic, shouldn't I, to do it that way? But you can't take it off this plastic till you put it on the pan. So let's bring it over to the pan here and let's cook this one up first, I guess. Hope my pan's hot enough. So all you got to do here is you just peel off the one, and peel off the other, and set her down. Okay. Now you're going to have her down like that for about, I don't know, like 30 seconds. What you're looking for, I got this. My thing goes from like 1 to 10, and I have it on 6. I find that's about a good temperature. You're waiting for steam to start to rise, shoot out from underneath the tortilla. Okay, that's all you're waiting for. It takes about 30 seconds or so. So I'd say that's about right. Then you flip her. Okay. Now you're going to give it about a minute. 45, 50 seconds, 60 seconds, all right, give or take about a minute. Okay. This timing is crucial or none of this works. You can play with it, you can break all the rules, but so first side gets about 30 seconds, give or take. Really, you're looking for steam. Second side gets about a minute, and you flip it again and you give it a little tap, and it should puff up. And hopefully, through the magic of television, this first one works out fine. I haven't made these in a couple weeks. I find if I'm making them all the time, I'm in a groove and everything works out really good all the time. But hopefully this one will work out okay. All right, so let's say that's about a minute, give or take. Okay, so now I'll give it a flip. Give it a tap like that, and hopefully she comes up. And it is. Now these don't rise as well. It's coming up a little bit, right? You can see it sort of coming up, right? I don't know if you can tell that. So these don't pop up as good as if you're just using 100%, that special flour. But they rise, right? And some of them rise better than others. But this one here, it's risen about an inch, right? So that's, it might rise a little bit more, but, they don't pop right up like 2-3 inches high, but they rise. So the inside gets cooked, right? That's all you need. You can just give it another flip just to brown it, have a little bit of brown on both sides. Okay, so I'm trying to show you all this stuff without having all the fancy equipment, right? Once you've got them ready, you can get there's a special thing that people use traditionally for keeping the tortillas, right? But you don't need that. You can just take these, put them in a bowl like this, right? And just go like that. Once you get them all ready, you put a plate on top of it like that to keep them nice and warm, right? But that works. There's a special thing you can buy in a Mexican store, that has everything you need. But this just a bowl with a plate on it with a towel. This works fine for keeping them sort of just right? Where they'll still bend, they won't dry out, they'll just sort of maintain their humidity perfectly. Let's make another one just using a pot instead of using the tortilla press. All right, so it's been a long time since I've done it this way. This is when I didn't have a nice house and nice stuff and, everything nice. I was just barely making it in the world, right? This is how I do it, and it works totally fine. Okay, add a little bit more to this one here. Again, you're making these about the size of a golf ball. So you put one down, right? The nicer, sort of more ball-like you can get this, the better. It'll work with the rise and all that. Okay, we put the other plastic on top. And then you just, haven't really got that in the center, do I? There, oh. There. I have the hardest time figuring out where the middle of the camera is. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's do that. You just push down on the pot. The great thing about this way is you can sort of stop from time to time to examine. Really got to put some weight on it though. A little bit more, I think. There, see? That works. Works totally fine. It's been a while. It's probably been like 30 years since I did it this way. But it works, right? Okay, let's go back to the pan here. All right, same process. Peel off the top. Peel off the bottom on the pan. Right, you wait about 30 seconds. See, right now there's no real steam coming off of this, but once it gets to a certain heat, steam will start shooting out around the sides. So you're just watching for that, right? So I mean, if you get, this is a good thing to do with your kids. You get sort of an assembly line type thing going. You get more than one pan going, and you know, get a bit of a production going. There we go. So I see the steam now. I can flip it carefully. There we go. No special tool needed. Just dancing around there like an air hockey puck. I'm just looking at the clock here. It says 11. Well, it says 1:47. So I just gauge. I think when it's 1:48, it's probably been on this. Unless 1:48 happens immediately, I can use a. when I used to do this, I do with my daughter. She holds a stopwatch, and we time it so we don't get it wrong. But you don't need to do that, right? You can sort of go by feel to some extent, right? It was 1:47 when I flipped this over. So, you know, I know that when it hits 1:48, it'll be less than a minute, but close to a minute, right? I'm just waiting for that to happen and trying to talk through that. So, trying to do this in real time just so you can get a sense of what's involved. Of course, you can make these bigger, right? It's all up to you and how hard you push down it. Okay, now it says 1:48. Give her a flip, give her a tap like that, and hopefully she comes up. And it's coming up. There you go, look at that. See how it's rising? Right, again, it does not rise as well as if you use the pure tortilla flour, but it rises. And it rises enough for, well, to say it rose, right? Right, to basically to do this honestly, right? Okay, I think that's enough there. I'll just flip it back so it gets a little bit of browning on this other side. Right, so I mean, they're not coming right up like you see in these perfect videos, but this is perfectly fine. And if you want it to rise more, you just change the ratio of cooked cornmeal to that special tortilla flour, right? The more tortilla flour you have, the better it's going to rise, of course, because that's sort of like pre-cooked flour, and it's processed and it's softer and so on. But that works totally fine. That's all you got to do, right, to get those ready for a meal and save money on the material. So yeah, if you like fajitas, are basically, if you like anything, you don't have to use fajitas, and if you like anything that requires a corn tortilla, soft corn tortilla, and if you've never had them before, they're just, to me, a league ahead of buying those hard, crunchy ones that fall apart. You know, they buy the hard ones in the box that are bent, and you take one bite and psh, the thing falls into your lap. Right? These soft ones are so nice because you made them fresh. They've got this fresh corn taste. You can add more or less salt. You can get the flavor just the way you like. It's nice to have one of these things to put them together, but you can totally do it just using a pot. Main thing is that you've got two pieces of plastic to have on either side of the ball as you're pressing it. And you can reuse this, you know, within reason. You can't reuse it forever, right? And to keep them just right and warm, this is still nice and hot and steamy, right? You just put them in a thing like this, and it basically approximates. There's a Spanish name for the thing these go in. I can't remember what it's called. But basically, oh, you can smell the corn smell coming off of these. I found, and my daughter agrees, that the sort of half cornmeal ones have a better taste. I mean, that's me, Mr. Gringo from Nova Scotia, Canada, but they have a corn, I mean, it's got a really distinct corn smell, right? The corn really sings out, let's put it that way, right? So I like them. It's a little bit more, you get an extra step because you got to basically cook the cornmeal on the stove, but it's really not that big a deal. You know, if you're preparing a meal, you'd mix this up first, then make all the things that are going with your tacos, and then you'd press them out and cook them just when it was time to make the meal. Because each one of these takes about 2 minutes to make, right? So you can make a dozen of them in, you know, 15 minutes sort of thing, half an hour or whatever. Oh, the smell is, especially if you got 2 pans going and you're really efficient. But you got to keep them like this, right? Or they'll dry out and they'll crack and they won't work right. So, you know, you keep them in this right up until you eat. Even while you're eating them, you're going to have this on the table and you're going to take them out and put them back in. Anyone who knows about this understands what I'm talking about. I'm just saying this for the person that's never tried this before. But yeah, these taste really good. They smell really good. I mean, the house smells like roasted corn right now. It's just lovely, right? And it's really, you know, so much cheaper to make it this way because cornmeal is a relatively inexpensive ingredient, and it's just a way of stretching out the special prepared corn flour, just making more, you know, but basically not using as much per batch, but still getting to enjoy it. And it makes making any sort of meal like that, depending on how complex you're getting, just it's lovely having the fresh tortilla with the meal. Anyway, hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Have fun in your garden, but also have fun saving money in your kitchen. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Hey folks, since so many of my viewers live in the USA, I've found a USA-based seed provider to partner with to help support the channel. Park Seed has been providing seeds to Americans for over 150 years. They have a wide selection for just about everything you need for gardening, from seeds to fruit bushes and trees to garden tools and clothing. They also have a wide selection of organic seeds and heirloom seeds. To help support my channel, simply go to my website, maritimegardening.com, and click the Park Seed link with the American flag on the right-hand side of the page. The link will take you to their website, and if you buy something after using the link to get there, I get a small commission on the sales. They have a great promotion going right now, which offers 15% off on your first purchase. So maybe check that out, give them a try for your next seed order. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for everything you do to help grow my channel. We'll see you in the next video. Happy gardening.